Melody, this is Commissioner Hanson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to our Planning Commission. We thank you for coming as our invited guests. This evening we'll start the meeting. I'll go ahead and say the invocation, followed by an invite to say the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Shield. Father in heaven, as we come before thee in prayer this evening at the start of this meeting, we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to be here to conduct and assist the city council in affairs of the city. We're thankful for the blessings that each of us receive and have given to us to live in this community. We're thankful for the opportunity to continue to try to build it and shape and mold it to be a wonderful place to continue to live and good for our families, both current and people that come hereafter. We're thankful for the blessings as far as safety is getting us here to this meeting, and we ask that you please watch over us with safety in our return home. Say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Handy. All right, the first item on the agenda this evening is to approve the agenda, commissioners. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, I invite those at this time. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
It's Commissioner Anderson. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Shield, I second.
We've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, agenda is set as is. Number two, we'll look for this is an approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, May 18th. There were some changes that were added to the minutes that we've received a copy of here in front of you. Are there any additional questions or corrections needing to be made? And if not, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes from May 18th.
This Shield, I would propose that we approve the minutes from May 18th.
It's Commissioner Anderson. I second.
All right, I've got a first and a second on approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. The minutes are now approved. Item number three, this is the opportunity to declare for any abstentions or conflicts that you might have with an agenda item this evening. I do not have any. Commissioners, do you have any that needs to be noted? No? Okay, perfect. There are none that need to be put on the minutes for the meeting. We'll go to item number 4A. This is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council for a zone change request, Z-22-12, from RA half acre to R115, located approximately 3650 south, 1050 east. The applicant is Clark Spilker. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Okay, just hold on briefly. My computer decided it wanted me to sign in again. So I think we're real close here. David, can you switch that over from where you're at? Bring up the exhibits. Thank you, kind sir. Thank you, Commissioners. As stated, the applicant's requesting approval to change the zoning of approximately 2.54 acres. The request is from the current zoning of residential agricultural half-acre minimum, or the RA half zoning designation, to the proposed single-family residential 15,000 square foot minimum, or the R115 zoning district. The R115 request is for the purpose of developing the parcel into future residential subdivision. This particular location has a general plan use designation of very low density residential, which allows for the R115 or larger zoning districts. The surrounding zoning of the parcel is RA1 and R115 to the north, RA half to the west, RA1 to the west. Sorry, that should be to the east. And then RA half and RA1 to the south. Staff has no concerns with the proposed zone changes outlined. The application is in harmony with the surrounding land uses and the general plan. Therefore, staff would like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-12 for the zone change request from the RA half to the R115 onto the City Council. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the commission might have on this proposal.
Thanks, Drew. Commissioners, any questions that jump out before we open this for a public hearing? I have a question, Drew. This is Commissioner Hanson. On this particular potential homes in the future, there will be streets that come off 3650. There won't be driveways. Is that correct?
Correct. It'll be a short cul-de-sac.
Okay, perfect.
It'll be roughly right in the middle. We've kind of seen a layout, but again, we don't show that because we're not doing the subdividing, but we're fine with the layout. And it'll just be a short stubbed cul-de-sac that'll kind of just get in, have the bubble, and that'll be it. So everything will just, fin off of that.
Okay.
Can you show this on the aerial? Where's your computer?
Let me just zoom right down there.
So is it right next to, or is there a lot in between the youth home and there?
There's a lot in between.
Okay, that's what
I'll light up the one, it'll
I
be in
can
the
see,
blue,
okay.
and then the youth home you can see right at the edge. So that'll be coming into you soon.
So the subdivision to the south of it's
Right here.
it's even lower density.
Yeah, the break is, let me just show you, I'm gonna highlight up the general plan so you can kind of see. This one falls in the very low density in the green area, and then right next door to it is low density, which can be R110 or 12.
So with it only being a cul-de-sac, there won't be any roads that tie those two together in the future, correct?
No, we were hoping the owners could get together, but then they tried to, but because of drainage and everything, there's going to be a land elevation change between the two lots. So we thought you can do that with retaining walls and lots, but it's hard to make roads. It's just harder in design to have them head downhill or uphill, depending on which way you're going. So it's going to work out best, all in all, to have
That way.
two separate ones. So
Okay.
Drew, this is Commissioner Anderson. Just a question. Is the reason they're going to R115, I mean, looking at this, you probably can only fit maybe 4 lots here, if you're lucky, just because of the weird corners and everything. Is it just because some of the lots might have been slightly under half acre? I'm assuming.
you're actually going to be able to get, I think, 5, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's going to be
They'll be able to do it. Again, it's a short road. And like I said, it's almost as soon as you get in, you're going to hit the cul-de-sac. It's almost like it's within a very short distance that you'll start the 100-foot cul-de-sac, but I'm almost sure there was 5 lots that they'll get in it.
It is. Any other questions initially? All right. I'll open the floor here this is a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak on this particular item, please come up to the microphone and please state your name for the record. We have somebody in another room that's taking notes on this meeting, and that would be helpful. Thank you.
My name is Serge Benson. I live on Roadrunner. I'd like to ask, what is going to be built that requires a different zoning than what is currently zoned on Roadrunner?
Homes.
The way I understand it is right now it can be half-acre lots only. What they're doing is asking for a zone change that is going to allow them to build 5 houses in their 5 lots, as opposed to, I don't know how many half-acre, 2?
15,000
It's probably,
15,000 feet.
So 2. So instead of 2, they're asking for 5. The ability to build 5 houses instead of 2 right there.
Well, no, it's 2.5
well,
acres.
they would get 3 to 4 lots.
probably have
right now.
four before, and now they're asking for 5
So
essentially.
1 additional.
It's probably just a better fit. So they're not going to get many more houses.
We can certainly ask the applicant, and they could explain to us what their plan is. We haven't seen that yet exactly how it would be, but it looks like, if I'm understanding right what they're saying, they might get one more lot in there than what they currently have it zoned for.
So that requires a zone change.
It does.
What's wrong with the current 10,000?
They're not at 10,000, they're at half acres. Your lots are 10,000
So
that
these
you
will
live
be
on. These
bigger.
ones are bigger than you, so
Okay.
you should be happy.
Are they going to change the landscape dramatically? I mean, there's quite an elevation change.
We don't have
You
that
don't
yet.
have, that's the next approval then?
Yes.
It's subdivision, and you'll get notice for that as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment on this particular item? I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing, commissioners.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I make a second.
We got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Commissioners, I'll open the floor for additional questions that you might have for staff or the developer if they're here. Is the developer here? Would you mind answering that question for this gentleman? You can make it as long or as short as you'd like. It'd just be helpful for us as well to hear. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Clark Spilker.
Clark, I think what he was asking is, I guess our thinking is that you want to put another lot on there as opposed to what you could with half acre.
Yeah,
Simple enough, right?
5 instead of 4.
Okay. Perfect. That's it. Anything you want to add today?
What's that?
Anything that you would like to add this evening?
No.
Simple enough. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other questions? If not, I'll look for a motion on item number 4.
Drew, what do they have for water retention or whatever? Do they have to have any kind of a detention?
Everybody does, but we'll see that at subdivision, where they're going to put it. So every lot has to account for detention or LID, so.
All right.
So you know there's a big regional detention pond right across the street, just in case you're worried.
Is it piped under the road?
It-
Look for a motion on item number 4A.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a recommendation we approve Z-22-12 for the zone change request from residential agriculture half-acre minimum to the proposed single-family residential 5,000 square foot minimum, and pass it on to the city council with the 2 findings.
This Shill, I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bullock. I have a second by Commissioner Shield. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The item number 4A passes. We'll send this to City Council with our recommendation for approval. Item number 4B. This is also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council for a zone change request Z-22-13 of parcel W-5-2-36-2312 from open space to C3, located approximately east Warner Valley Ranch. The applicant is, I'll just say Craig so I don't screw up your name, Craig. I apologize. The application is Craig and Star Nursery. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you, commissioners. The applicant is requesting approval of a zone change of approximately 13.97 acres. The requested change is from the current open space zoning designation to a proposed general commercial C3 zoning. The C3 request is in preparation for a possible future Star Nursery development. The general planned land use designation for this parcel is community commercial, and the surrounding zoning to the parcel is open space to the east and south, open space in C1 to the north, and planned unit development commercial to the west. Staff supported of the request at this location. Falls in line with the general plan. Staff therefore would like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-13 for the zone change from open space to the proposed general commercial C3 zoning onto the City Council. That's based on the findings in your report. I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission might have at this time. So I'll go ahead and bring this one up on our, just down the street, by the way, of where we just were.
Can you put the roads on there so we can see where the new?
Well, you can almost see the lines. That's a good point. But the city, you can see the city's been busy purchasing land. That's what all those boxes are.
Also, it'll
The
be
only one we're missing is right here.
So it will be on the north side of this then.
Yes. But I'll bring up the master transportation.
Where is this in relation to the storage units that Dennett is building?
Storage units are right here on the west border. This weird shape, I'll just highlight it up.
Okay.
This rectangle right here, that's the storage units.
And the floodplain is on the left of where your mouse is, right?
Yeah, I will bring up the floodplain as well. You can see it's over here in all that blue colored area.
Okay.
It's actually been modified a little bit. This up here on the tip, I don't think we've got our map. I know they're in the process of getting that be taken out. John, that hasn't happened yet, or is it real close? Okay. So that's why there's two lots right there where that tip of that blue goes there. They can't develop those until that floodplain pops out of there. So
What do they have to do to get that where it's not floodplain anymore? What do they do?
well, what you do is you do a letter of map revision. They call them LOMARs or CLOMARs, but it's usually a LOMAR. And they basically just have to go in and raise the ground, or if it's already raised, just an engineer, a licensed engineer just puts all the paperwork together and says where the elevation was stated, where the flooding goes. As long as you just indicate that it's at a new elevation, they certify that elevation, send it into FEMA, they run it through their process, and then they clear it out. Because floodplain is all based on elevation and water flow.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions for staff?
And that, sorry, the floodplain, is that just for that regional retention that you were, or were you joking when you say? That's just the
It is. It's
retention,
part-
right?
it's
Just
part
the
of that
backup for
basin.
that basin, okay.
You know, the gypsum debris basin. So it's really not, it's water backed up, not water running through in this particular. So it'll fill up to those certain points. So all they're going to do is go, again, it's all about elevation and getting it out of the NRCS. It has to sign off in this because it's their detention area. And then it goes on to FEMA to take out. So
Is Star Nursery, with this proposal, is Star Nursery no longer looking at the piece out at Stookie Farms that they were looking at?
correct. This is the place. This is what they want, real.
All right.
And it's a pretty good location, right off the interchange and out in the fields. It serves people a little bit higher instead of having to go all the way down south. So
Can you remind me what the zoning is on the right-hand side of that blue line?
on the right, it's still open space because they haven't come in and done anything yet. The general plan, again, this particular open space is one of those areas that's just in a holding pattern till they determine what they're going to put in. So you can see C1 was done up on that piece on the north in the last couple of years. Again, the Dennett piece was done in the last year and a half. You know, it's coming in with the zone changes.
Ideally, what do we want that to be? C1 as well, so it matches? I guess because this is going to be very valuable real estate 10, 15, 20 years from now as the Southern
Well, let me
Parkway
just,
becomes used more.
here's what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. So you're going to get next on the west hand, on the west or the east side, it's going to be C1 more than likely, just because unless they do a general plan amendment.
Mhm.
You can see this piece right here is the Star Nursery, proposed Star Nursery piece right here. Right next to it is the Dennett's storage.
Mhm.
That's why C1 is up here, because that's the highest they could ask for up on the north side of the street. So over here on the east side will be C1 currently right now.
Okay.
All that means is C2 is where you're getting into outdoor storage, like, putting stuff outside and stuff. C1 doesn't allow you to do that. It's all, contained within the building, retail establishments. And that's what we'll probably see here is I guarantee there will probably be a Maverick or something like a Maverick somewhere right there. And then they'll just go from maybe other fast food restaurants or things like that will end up being on that interchange. There could be 2 gas stations, C-stores there.
Is the
So-
purchase of this property dependent on the outcome of the rezoning here? Or has it already been purchased? You already own it? Nice. It's gonna be a nice, that area we know coming in the future is gonna be high quality property over there. So good for you guys. This is a public hearing, so I'll open that. Is there anybody here in the audience who would like to speak to this particular item? Come on up and state your name for the record. We'll do the best we can to get your comments on the record, and if we can't answer any of the questions, then we will.
My name's John Roper, and I live on Mountain Vista Place, which you can see on the screen here. So my comments just related to the difficulty I have with the zoning. I made this point 2 years ago with the Dennett thing, which my understanding is that was changed to PUDC, so we still are yet to see any kind of proposals for that property, and it's still got to get approval from, I don't know if it has to get approval from the commission and the council.
Then it's already done. They approved a storage unit complex already. That's a done deal.
But the PUDC zoning it required some further.
It's
Review,
done.
right?
No, it's already done. Yeah.
Okay, that's extremely disappointing, because the PUDC zone change, from my understanding, was that there would be further say from the city council in what that would look like. That's why they didn't just simply change the zone to commercial. Did I make that up?
I thought we saw that. We saw.
No, you didn't.
renderings.
That's what they came back, and they had him do the PUC.
And
they
we didn't
brought it
receive
back.
any notice?
Well,
That's
we're not here to
ridiculous.
talk about that particular thing. I'm just
Actually,
letting you know.
No, we are, because all of this
If you
was
have
zoned open
this meeting,
space.
this meeting tonight is about this item. I'm just trying to keep you online. If you have an issue about noticing and stuff, that has to be
Well, yeah,
done
we'll
at
talk about
something
that
else,
later.
so.
But the use of the words open space in this plan, words have meaning. And if it's just a holding, just putting something in a holding pattern, why don't we use something like to be determined or holding pattern? This was a point that was made very, very clearly almost 2 years ago during the pandemic, especially by Councilman Coates. And when you go from open space to these commercial, that really impacts the property owners that are directly bordering this property, like myself and all the people who own property immediately across the street. So I'm very frustrated by the lack of accuracy in describing property or zoning as open space when you're saying it's actually to be held in a holding pattern. So that would be my comment. We can do better than what we've done, and it's 2 years later to see it still being zoned or described the same way. I think that's really, really lazy. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to just address that for other public that are here watching. This has always been designated as either neighborhood commercial or commercial in the general plan. That's what you need to base everything. When I buy a home or anything, I'm just giving people some education on this. As you look in the general plan, not what the current zoning is. That says what's going to happen in the future. it's always been designated as commercial since way before you bought your home or before your homes were even built. It has. I've been here working here for 16 years. It hasn't changed. And just to let you know,
Why does the zoning have to change?
Hey, John. Hey, John.
sir, you had your time to speak here,
Hey, John.
sir.
John. Would you please? I don't want to have to ask you to leave, but I will. Okay. There's a better way for you to do what you want to do, and it's not getting on us for what we're doing. Would you go ahead and leave?
So right here, just for people to know what we did go back and look, you see this NYD is what we used to have open spaces holders, and now we call it not yet determined. And so that's what it does say in the general plan for folks. Again, I'm just letting people know, and so the planning commission can have it out there. And again, it's for, just purposes of learning and understand where we are and what we try to do here. So that is been taken care of. And this piece again has been like this since I've been working here on this, because we've always planned for the interchange to be there, and just for passing that information on.
There's a question I have for you, Drew, but I'll come back to it. I think there was somebody else that wanted to speak to this item. Yeah, come on forward, or please come forward and state your name again for the record as we take notes from another room.
Hello, I'm Carrie Boone. I live at 1345 East Mountain Ridge Drive. So kind of kitty corner from where we're talking about. I appreciate what the thought that's going into this. I'm super excited to see the park, less excited to see the storage units. And I love Star Nursery. I guess just as a resident and as this being a residential area and commercial that butts right up to our neighborhood and where our kids play, I just would love to see, I think there's a lot of things that this could look like a gravel pit with rocks and trucks coming in and out all day. I feel like I've just stepped into like a really irritated presence. So I just I think we're all families. We want our city to be nice, but I think this can be done with some consideration and parameters that could make a huge difference for how this meets up with a neighborhood. And so in moving forward with, I think Star Nursery is awesome. I love, but I love the plant part and not the rocks and trucks sitting right next to my house where my kids are playing. So that's just a concern that I want to put out. It is really confusing. There are 90 bajillion different versions of this map. I reached out to the Facebook group in our neighborhood, and there were at least 20 different versions of what people perceive this to be. So I think it's fair that there is some confusion about what the zoning was or is, and I think it's pretty open if people come and ask. But it makes sense when we're connecting to the parkway. My concern is that it be done with consideration to how that appears, because there's a huge spectrum of what that could look like.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else like to speak to this item? Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
My name's Rusty Hughes, and I'm also a resident of Washington City. I live off of Exit 13 in Sienna Hills. And I just wanted to, I'm also the Economic Development Director for Washington City, but I'm here as I'm here as both. But as a resident, I do have some concerns about the amount of commercial that we have in our city. Commercial development reduces traffic. It brings goods and services closer to where people live, brings good paying jobs so that our kids don't have to travel and pour money into other neighboring cities, and it helps offset our property taxes. I know that the residential has far outpaced our commercial development within Washington City, and we haven't always been open to that. But I do really appreciate these projects, and I do see them come through staff developer, and I do see the thought put into them. I think this is a great area. If you do a sales leakage study for that area, you see the demand, the unmet demand. And so most of the people in Washington, we have few places to shop. And I love that that's another option. I think it's going to bring people down when the interchange is done from neighboring communities, so that we maybe get some of those lakeside hurricane resort shoppers coming in and spending money within our community, which goes to help provide public services. So just want to say that as a resident. And then also just to put a statistic out there to illustrate this, about 86% of all commercial development within Washington County is in our neighboring St. George. Washington City is the next largest by population, and we're long overdue for some commercial development. And I think because this delay, there's been a delay, we're in a market where we can get a much higher quality. And I think that that's what we're seeing. Not in all cases, but I think this is certainly a great example of one. Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. Anybody else? I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing, commissioners.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. Commissioners, I'll open the floor to any questions you might have for staff or the developer.
So I know it's just a zone change now, but the road going through, is that going to have to be, is the city building that out, or are we going to have to wait for each development to do this, like Washington Dam Road? Piece it together.
No, the city does intend to extend out 2 lanes, all the way out to the interchange. We're in planning and stuff for that. And then as each development goes in, they'll widen it out to its full extent.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Hanson. Drew, the gentleman that got up here a second ago, and he was talking about open space being a bad moniker to use, we should be using for something else. Didn't we talk about that? Like, I think you said something. We talked about that.
Yep.
Is there any traction on that? I don't care one way or the other, but I'm just wondering from the city's point of view, is there any reason to change it from open space to something else based on the comment that he had?
Well, what we did was that's why I pulled up that thing just so people could see it. It's like we don't, we have certain open space areas that are open space, and then we have this certain areas we've designated as NYD, and on the map it says not yet determined.
Yeah.
It's the same color as open space, but those specific areas are not yet determined. So that's what, this, because it's zoned open space, and I probably shouldn't have said that was even my faux pas. That had nothing to do, because the general plan is already community commercial. You can only do a zone change for C2 or C3, period. So they're asking for one of those 2 things in this zone change. But I was just pointing out that we do have these NYDs now on, I want to get a little bit more drilled down on certain areas that I want to turn even some more that's just left open space, and, get more specific on that. But that's, we could go create some, or just give it a different color. I mean, that's really all that's lacking in the difference between regular open space and NYD open space, is that, do I want it a different shade of white, or, do it a gray or a darker, one of the 2, but that's all that we'd be doing. But we kind of put that in here. That's what you can see this, and it's just right there in that same area.
Drew, so is that on the general plan, or is that on the zoning map?
This is general plan. You won't see it on the zone map. The zoning and general plan are different. People need to understand that. So if I move into a house and I check the zoning map, that's one thing, but zones can change.
No, what
Your
I'm asking
research
is,
needs to go
on the
one
zoning
step
map,
farther.
we still have places that are labeled.
Yeah, I
open
can't go.
space,
I'm not going to
correct?
go rezone people's property for them just for that.
That's
Does that
not what
make
I'm
sense?
saying. I'm just saying, are there, on the zoning map, are some of these unzoned areas or not yet determined areas, are they still labeled open space, or is that being changed to not yet determined?
No, again, that's why I'm trying to say, we're not going to go rechange zoning for people to to
I'm just
turn
saying
them
for
to-
stuff that hasn't been determined.
Yeah, no,
It's general
the
plan. but
quick
it's not
answer is
determined.
no.
Okay.
We're leaving them open space because that's what they're zoned right now. Just go turning them to a not yet determined open space. It's
Well, we're not the Lone Ranger on that. Other cities, they also call it open space. I
Yeah.
think it's an education thing that people come in and see open space. They think it's always going to be open.
Yeah.
I think it's not only the public, but it could be their marketing representative. So
So in piggybacking that, with regards to the two people prior to Rusty that spoke, with regards to Carrie's comment, when she reached out to Facebook groups, I almost went cross-eyed because that's probably the worst place you could reach out to. Is how accessible is the city? What does that look like if Carrie's, instead of going to Facebook, can Carrie walk in here and meet with somebody that she could understand
Looks
better
like
what's
you can
happening?
it's online.
Yeah,
If it's not-
the maps I have are what's in the law. I mean, it's what's adopted by the city. What my neighbors all think things are. I wouldn't. I'm not trying to pick on you or your neighbors by prom. I'm just saying that for me, I'm going to go, and I live in a different city than Washington. So for me, I go to my general plan map, I see what it is, and I go, okay, that's what the city's planning on having in that area. This has been like this, Yeah, but just for you, and before any of the folks were even out here, Galilee Heights only had a spigot of homes in it when I started here in 06. And what's right next to that? You have Galilee Heights and Villa Toscana. They both were just partly built out at the time when I started in 06. And so there wasn't a lot of people out there, but I can tell you my general plan has pretty much looked like this since the day I started. Now this piece over here that was in the pond got added a couple of years ago. John was right about that, but that's already been done. They added, you could see where this blue is. It kind of rounded off. If you just follow my arrow, it kind of rounded off like this because it was kind of designated what they call the debris basin, water storage. But this area right here where the red is now was always a little higher. There was no way water was going to get in it. And so that's when they came back and someone applied for a general plan amendment and got the community commercial right here a couple of years ago. So yeah, I get that they can still have bad feelings about that, but now that it's done, unfortunately. So people can ask for what, this darker red, not the maroon, they can ask for what it's general planned as, and that's either C2 or C3. So but this other maroon has been there for 20 plus years. We're coming up on 20 years. This maroon area has always been out there.
So
like
Drew,
that.
if somebody did have questions and they went online and it was confusing to them, which it can be for the general public, your office is available, right?
Yeah, you can come in anytime. There's 3 of us to help kind of walk through. So I would just let anybody listening or watching or even here tonight, just always feel free to come in. We'll kind of show you, and we can even give you history of things,
Carrie, one of the things that, for everybody actually, one of the things that has been fascinating to me being on this commission now for, I don't know, I think 4 or 5 years, is how many people are told something that's far different than what the reality and the truth is. And so when we get our packets in the mail, we have a chance to review what we're reviewing ahead of time. I'll see things regularly and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. I heard something else and I heard this or I heard that. And from real estate agents down, telling people incorrect information about open space or anything else. And so I've always kind of taken under the idea of, well, let me find out why. If it affects me, if something's going to affect me, I need to find out why. And so I encourage anybody listening, watching, or here tonight, if you have a question, to get a hold of the city. That's why I wanted to make sure there was an avenue for that to happen, because most of the time the information out there is bad stuff. I get too, and I fortunately am privy to some information ahead of time, and I can see these things where it clears up a lot of it for me, but that doesn't happen for everybody else. And so I just wanted to add that. But commissioners, do you have any other questions for staff? But I do want to ask the developer to come up too. So if you have questions for staff, let's ask that now.
I do, Drew. On C3, what is allowed in C3 versus C2? And you said outdoor storage.
Right. So a lumber yard or a nursery could come in without, stuff that goes out. So C3 is just more of your, that they will have some outdoor stores. Again, and the best one is to, pick on is a nursery or a lumber yard, because a lot of their business, if you go by Burton Lumber, they have the metal buildings out back with a stack of, OSB board, three bundles high, 20 deep, that's C3's more fitting for that kind of stuff.
And the C1 is more of your gas stations, grocery store.
Well, grocery stores are more fitting for C2.
C2,
It's for
okay.
bigger. C1's more of the
store.
ma and pa type, smaller, again, a gas station going there under conditional use permit. But, you're talking like your McDonald's or your Arby's or,
In the C1.
a bank or in the C1. You're just talking kind of small boxes, maybe a drive-through to it, but it's just kind of general retail stuff that specializes.
And the C2 is going to be more of your box store.
More like your bigger plazas and bigger, the Albertsons area.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
perfect example of a C2, a big lot of them built together in a big, massive parking lot.
And then this still has to come in for an approval for a conditional use permit.
Conditional use permit, because if it's over 5,000 square feet, which I think his store will be, they'll be in for a conditional use permit. You'll see the layout.
Right.
Of
We'll see
everything.
entrances and all that stuff. And,
Entrance,
and
yeah.
Obviously, they're going to want block walls around it so that no one steals any of their products.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that point, we'll be able to, all right, and they'll only have one or two entrances, exits, so that it's
Right. And that's when you'll get to see what it looks like.
narrowed down.
So, and they'll get to see what it looks like at that time.
Anything else for staff?
Can I point out, I think we already did it. I was talking about, we could do a different color. Well, we did. We have regular open spaces that kind of an off green, and you're not yet determined is your gray. So, man, we are so fast taking care of those things in the general plan for you, but I thought we have, but
Awesome.
Buy yourself a drink.
I think the big key for anyone that is listening, which probably not that many are listening, but the big key is the zoning is just drilled down information. It's not, that's more specific than people are usually looking at. The one that everyone gets upset at, they need to be looking at the general plan, because anything that is on general plan can and likely will one day go in there. And then the other one would be the roads. That way you kind of have an idea of where roads are probably going to go in. Zoning is just a lot more specific, but for what the general public usually gets upset about, they need to be looking at the general plan page, and that lets them know what will likely be there one day.
And I think we do need to be careful. I don't know that it requires a block wall. You talked about a block wall, but I'd be careful of stating that.
Well, they'll bring something in. It's something
They'll
that
have
they'll
some
do.
kind of a fence, but I don't know.
I'm not saying, but when that comes is when we'll go
I'd
through
just be
that.
careful what you say.
Awesome. Would one of you mind coming up just for a couple of questions? And are you Craig by chance?
I am.
No, he's Craig. Well, that's fine. Either or. Please state your name for the record.
Commissioners, Craig Q, Keough. You were almost close there.
I would have screwed it up. That's why I didn't
It's
say
okay.
it.
Everybody does. It's pronounced Q. And I am the founder, owner of Star Nursery. Have 16 stores, 700 employees, stores in 3 states. And we've been in Washington now since 90. Well, we were in St. George first at 91. The cotton mill, I purchased that in 97. Great little store.
Yeah.
Great little store. I'm here to answer any questions.
It's awesome. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, the lady that spoke, she has kind of a great point for anybody that lives in that area. As the owner of this particular store that's wanting to come in, what do you do in talking to the public that are going to butt up to your property? Or do you have an interest in going and talking to them? Do you plan on meeting with HOAs or anything like that? Or are you just going to look for what the city says? I'm kind of curious. She certainly wants to know.
Well, I'm open to what the city has to say, and I'm also open to any of the residents, because I've done many, residential meetings to let people know what I'm doing with my stores.
Yeah.
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 Very conscious of the neighborhood.
I thought so. I congratulate you guys on this property. This is going to be, it is going to be a great area. Looking out 20 years, looking back, this I think will be a big part of our city. And so you're going to have prime real estate there. I want to make sure that we don't, gosh, it shouldn't be contentious. I don't think it should be. Do you? I mean, obviously you don't want to put something in, everybody hates Star Nursery and burns your place down or whatever's going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. It's disheartening to see that what's gotten us to this point, to be honest, tonight, for me personally. But I welcome it. I just think that I wanted to give you to see me give you 2 cents about the residents and the neighborhood. That is going to be, they're going to be somewhat close, and they're not going to be used
I'm
to
open
commercial.
for any comments they have.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I've met with staff. One thing we've talked about is she was looking at how it was going to look. And one thing that staff has recommended that I reach out to the architect that's building that future commercial center just up the street from me.
that's even something I don't know. We haven't seen that yet, but you might know.
Well, the city's retained 2 architects that have come in when we're talking about our downtown, I mean, our
Oh, yeah,
Washington Fields design criteria. And so the council, instead of going and making a whole ordinance on it, we retain 2 architects, and we pay for their input on people. You know, they can send him what he wants to do, and they'll just come and say, hey, you know, and the city's trusted them with a certain look that we want, and he'll just make some quick adjustments to it or whatever, give them ideas. Sometimes if you can just ask them, they'll send, you know, the client or the customer or the applicant in this case, you know, different things of what they'll say. Well, what's your business? Here's what we would, you know, propose that you do. And that might be the best, however way you want to do it. But we pay for that part of those guys to give that. And they just do, you know, they don't get down on the nitty gritty. They just give kind of one of those architect sketch things and, you know, roof pitches, finishes. And it's been working out pretty good so far because, again, we're picking up that tab. They don't have to pay that architect for that general design on it.
Awesome. Cool.
So
I
I've
don't-
agreed to that.
Yeah, you do have a great reputation on the line. I can't see you doing anything to damage it. No reason to.
Thank you.
In my opinion. So I look forward to seeing what you have. Commissioners, any other questions for Craig while he's here? No? Awesome.
I do want to make clarification. We don't store anything. Everything is display. And that's sometimes a stumbling block. And there will be block walls.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
Decorative block wall.
All right, Commissioners, I'll look for a motion.
And well landscaped.
I'll look for a motion on item number 4B if there are no further comments or questions for staff.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to approve Z-22-13, a request to rezone approximately 13.97 acres located at approximately 1500 East, 3650 South from the current open space to a proposed general commercial C3 zoning designation with the 2 findings, and send it to City Council for consideration.
Go to city council, right?
Yeah,
Go to city council?
Yeah.
We're not
Oh,
CUP
okay.
yet. This is Commissioner Mitchell. I second that motion.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Anderson. I have a second by Commissioner Mitchell. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. We'll send this to City Council with our recommendation for approval of the zone change request.
Thank you,
again for
Commissioners.
coming. We'll move to item number 5A. This is a public hearing as well for consideration to approve. This does not go to City Council. This is for us to approve a conditional use permit for a motel next to Arctic Spas, C-22-07, located at 1086 Red Cliffs Drive. The applicant is Christian Staples. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant's requesting approval of a conditional use permit. The applicant is proposing a 5-room, 3-story motel standing approximately 35 feet tall. The zoning regulations require motels to obtain an approved conditional use permit before they can begin construction or building. The parcel is zoned service commercial, C2, where hotels and motels are permitted under conditional use permit process. The area is designated in the general plan as regional commercial. Staff's reviewed the proposed project and finds that it meets the standards as outlined in the general plan and the zoning ordinance. I'd like to just kind of go through them before I get in my recommendation, but the blue area is where the addition is going to take place. The building out here that it's attached to is the old dry cleaner, Malibu dry cleaning, I think it was. And so he's retired and moved on. Arctic Spa, is it Arctic Spa? I don't want to say that, but the spa store is in there now. And you've seen them remodeling and doing a lot of changes. So they're just basically, we're focusing on this blue area back here. And it'll be, again, 3 stories in height. There will be a 1 unit down below, and then there will be 2 units on each of the remaining 2 floors. So they actually own, which a lot of people don't know this, is behind the Jiffy Lube, and that's where they'll be putting in their parking. So you can see this hard black line dashed here. That's actually part of their lot, and they kind of let Jiffy Lube been using that over the years, but they'll have all the parking for the 5 rooms back along that area. Just moving on, here you can kind of see the layout of each floor. These are the 2 floors up above the bottom floor, and then can't remember. There's the bottom floor right there with the studio rental in it, and then they'll have some parking for their own store vehicles for the spa store right there as well as part of that addition. And then you'll take stairs upward to hit the 2nd floor, which is right there in the middle. And then the 3rd floor will have 2 units too. So the elevations for the building are, as you can see here. So this is basically from Telegraph. It was Arctic Spa, I got it right. So, and that's what you'll see out front, and then you'll see the addition, back here in the harder colors and stuff, and the kind of the finish on them. And this is from the other angle, looking, if you were at Jiffy Lube, looking down to the west. This is from the back side, if you were coming in from I-15, pretty much looking that direction. And then if you're more on the Taco Bell parking lot, this is what you would kind of see, because it's on an angle the way that addition is done. So here's just, like I say, a blow up of the area with the different kind of textures that they'll be using. Then this is the view from Telegraph. So that's kind of the exhibits for what it's going to look like in appearance and aesthetics. So staff would like to recommend that the Planning Commission approve C-19-08, allowing for a motel development to be located at 1066 West Red Cliffs Drive. That's based on the findings and subject to the conditions that you see in your report.
All right, Commissioners, I'll open the floor for any questions for staff.
Drew, this is Commissioner Bullock. This doesn't need a height waiver from the city, correct? Because it's only 35 feet?
Correct, yeah, we allow up to 42 or 45 feet actually in commercial zones.
Okay. My next question, did I see are the HVAC units going to be on the top of the roof? Do we know? If so,
we'll
it doesn't
have
show
the
a parapet.
applicant come up and answer that.
Because it should have a screen wall, correct? For
Yeah,
any HVAC units?
Yeah, and we'll ask them because these are individual units, so probably have them within the units, but we'll clarify that.
Those were my questions on it.
Commissioner Hanson, one of the questions I had in the pictures and the renderings that we look at, the hotel has signage that says Arctic Spas. Will that be the name of the hotel, or is that just showing?
We told them they'll have that sign right there won't be.
Okay. Is there going to be any signage of something that affiliates it with Arctic Spas, or are they completely separate and they want it to be that way?
Well, I'm not sure, but the signage will, have to follow the sign ordinance.
Okay.
Again, being this will have to, I mean, if they want to call it the Arctic Spa Motel, I'm fine. I wouldn't pick that name personally, but if they want to, then it would have to say that. But I don't, I'm not letting them, and then we've already talked to them about this, that they can't use this facade for advertising their business out on Telegraph. So
What my additional line of thinking is or was going to be, when I look at the renderings, personally, I don't feel like these match. I feel like they should either match. That's, I guess, what I feel like for me. And I think we can probably talk through that with some other questions that the commissioners have, where it looked more cohesive. Where I can't, for me, it's a little difficult to understand if they want these to look like one piece, or like they belong with each other, or if they want them to be separated out, regardless of use or just as far as aesthetics. So that'll be one of my questions as the applicant comes up in a minute.
Drew, this Commissioner Bullock again. You said the signage wouldn't be seen on Telegraph, but isn't that signage right there on I-15 and not Telegraph? Are they going to be able to put on the I-15 side?
No, this one that we talked about right here on the top,
Yeah, that should be
that's
facing.
I-15. That's what we said. We won't, because again, that piece up top is from I-15. The one down below is from Telegraph. So, they could put a name of the hotel or motel up over here on, there, but this one would have to be just for the motel as well. Because again, if you've driven down there, they have a big freeway sign that they're allowed to have because they're within X amount of feet. And so I told them, you've got you got a big sign sitting right there. I'll kind of show you roughly. It's sitting right over here. If you can see my cursor bouncing around right here, there's a big Arctic Spa, 100, well, I don't know how big it is, pretty good size
Okay.
sign. So
They're going to use it for.
But they will be allowed to put, if it's a different name on the
Yes.
hotel on the
yeah, I'm not saying they
I-15
can't
side.
have any signs. It'd have to be the hotel.
That's what I was wanting to know, because I feel like they should be able to, at least from the I-15, be able to see.
No, they
part
can't.
of
It just
it.
can't.
Yeah.
They can't advertise Arctic Spa on this building.
Okay, no, that
That's
makes
all I
sense.
was saying. So
That makes sense.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. This is a question, maybe just a thought or idea that it came. With the hotel and the business, is there potential that the spa turn into a hotel as well? And what would be the process to make that adjustment, or would it change anything as far as parking, layout, future, potentially could that happen? And if it did, what?
if they did, they'd have to come in for the
Okay.
conditional
Come
use
back
permit,
through or
because the
whatever,
hotel use, they'd have to extend it into that.
Got you.
So they would have to be before you to expand the CUP. They couldn't just do it because it's already existing building. It's because of the use being motel, hotel that they would.
And I was more or less thinking about parking or layout, if there would be any restrictions or complications if they do that.
Drew, this is Commissioner Anderson. With what Commissioner Hanson said, are we looking at design and use with this conditional use? Like where he talked about the architecture and blending the two buildings?
Yeah,
That's something
I
we're
think,
looking at, or-
reasonable, that's why we have them conditions, because we don't want somebody that, would just come in and turn this into a neon pink thing. We'd say, no, we'll let you have your use, but they can't look like that. That's what part of the conditional use permit is to mitigate out aesthetics, flow, et cetera, things like that. So actually you should be, that's what most of your stuff should be based on, is look and appearance on the, as the commission.
Okay, so with that said, then I think the architecture improves the look of the building quite a lot. I think it's a good looking architecture. It's an interesting idea, but I do think that changing the color of the red stripe on the Arctic Spas to match the new building would look a whole lot better, and it would make them blend a little bit better. I think it's more the color than it is the architecture that looks off. But I think the new building looks really nice. I just think maybe changing the red banner Arctic spas, just something that matches with the new would look better.
But this is Commissioner Bullock. Can we ask that where that's an already existing building? We're building a new building? Because Arctic Spa's not in for this.
You can ask if they want to, but yeah, changing that already existing commercial thing, if they want to do that for you, but I don't know if they will, because I think the red is part of the Arctic. The whole thing is red is their color, the red and the white. But you can always ask, but
it's
you have
existing.
more jurisdiction on the hotel. The motel being built aesthetically than.
But I do think that Commissioner Hanson has a good point that because they're connected, they do need to look congruent. And even though we can't say you have to change the red, I think to get approval of a new building, it needs to, at least in color. I like the architecture. I don't have any problem with that. I think the colors need to blend together better.
When I first saw this, I thought, okay, that looks a little odd. What I wish I would see is that it looks like it's two businesses operating as one with purpose. And to me, if they matched, and I don't have any problem with the architecture either. I think it's a very interesting idea. I'd love to see it succeed, but I think these two need to, because they're associated with, unless I'm reading this wrong, if they're associated with each other, I'd like to see them act together aesthetically. So, but yeah.
This Commissioner Anderson, and I would say even if they're not associated necessarily with it, I think because they're connected, they've got to, I would like to see them tie together a little bit more cohesively. Is this something we can ask the applicant? Are they here?
Let's do this first. If you guys, we can continue to ask questions, but let me open, if you're okay with me open it to a public hearing. Let's see if there's anything from the public that we could ask as well.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I'm going to make just a comment because in my mind I'm thinking, okay, these are two separate situations. I agree to maybe make them combine a little bit better, but I'm wondering if where they're two separate identities, slight change, in my opinion, is not bad. Just to designate one versus the other.
Okay, at this time, I'll open this up. It is a public hearing. If anybody here in the chamber would like to speak to this particular item, please come forward at this time. All right. I will go ahead and look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Anderson, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
This Shield, I second.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing's closed. Let's open the floor if the applicant wouldn't mind coming forward for some questions.
The applicant should be on video.
Available for us to see or just
Audio. I'm sorry, audio.
Audio, okay. Can the applicant hear me?
Yes, this is Christian Staples.
Awesome.
I
Christian,
just want to make sure you can hear me. So.
Yeah, we can hear you okay. This is Commissioner Hanson. Could you kind of walk us through your idea here? I don't want to misrepresent your project by my misunderstanding it. So I'd love if you could kind of walk us through here what your intention is, and maybe you've heard some of our comments, if you could address those as well.
Yeah, so the intention is really to have a separate entity. So it's not, we sell hot tubs in one place and this would be, rentals in the other. So they wouldn't really be combined together. It's just a way of being able to utilize this space and the property to, more maximize the income potential for it. That's really what I'm doing. And then the other aspect of it is that it does help because the employees would be shared back and forth. So it does help to keep, the staff employed and we would probably actually have to add one more person to the staff to be able to handle this. So that's the sharing we go back and forth. As far as the architecture is concerned, we chose to do something just a little bit different to offer a distinction between the two. But if we need to make them look, cohesive, we could definitely do that as well. It's not a big issue for me, one versus the other. We just thought that having that separate thing would be more like, when you go in and you see a strip mall or something, but one store looks a little bit different than the next store, even though the buildings are connected together and they're doing two totally different, are offering two different purposes. So that's just what we chose to do for the purpose of this, but it's not an issue in any way. If you want me to make them look all the same, we can definitely, combine it all together.
Christian, this is Commissioner Anderson. I don't think they need to look the same. I think the architectural difference is nice. I just think just so the colors don't clash so bad. My only thing is the red stripe, really. I mean, if it were a color that went better with this, just so it's not such a clash, that would be my only thing. Whatever color that may be, maybe black to match your other, black parapets or whatever. I don't know, something. But I think the architecture is fine.
Well,
Splendid.
I'm definitely open to options, but asking us to get rid of the red is like asking Ford to get rid of the blue. It's part of our, the colors that we use. We use it in lots of different things, including our logo. So, it's hard to say, let's get rid of the red 100%. I definitely have to consider that. But if we needed to have something that wouldn't clash so much, we could definitely work together, and come up with something that would work.
Could you keep the red and blue in the Arctic spas and just tone down the parapet?
Well, the signage that's actually in this rendering is different. So we actually did not do that script writing with our logo added to the building. It's actually just white letters on top of the red parapet wall there. So it doesn't actually have the logo per se in there.
Christian, what's the name of the hotel? Do you have it? Is it Arctic Spas Hotel?
We have not come up with a name yet. I'm totally fine with the architect just threw up the name Arctic Spas just because we're calling this the Arctic Spas development, just for internal purposes. So he just put that up there to just show the representation of where signage could be located. But we do not have a name for the motel as of yet. But it would not be called Arctic Spas. We might do something, close to that, but it would be, it's its own entity, and it needs to be able to stand on its own and generate, its own revenue and things like that. So
this is Commissioner Hanson again. How is this hotel going to be advertised? Is it something you can go on Expedia and rent from, or is it something that you strictly control who uses it by invitation or whatever it is? I saw in there that some employees will use it from up north and things like that. What if a general public wanted to stay there? How would they hear about this and how would they find out?
So basically just through the traditional, websites for vacation rental type stuff, Expedia would be a good example. I don't have all the marketing details. We would, have obviously a website that people could rent it through and things like that.
What do you want a general person in the public to think when they're driving down Telegraph and they look to the right or left and they see this? Do you want them to see that these buildings are associated with each other? Do you want them, what's your goal here?
I don't know that I really have, a specific requirement of it. It's not, to be honest with you, this isn't going to be something like the, what is it, a Quality Inn or something like that that's just down the street that they draw traffic off of the freeway and say, hey, let's stay there overnight. This would probably be something more where people would plan in the future to stay there. So in all honesty, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. This is going to be more of like, people brought in from the internet to stay, not necessarily because it's, you happen to drive by and see it.
Yeah, commissioners, I've known all along it's going to be like vacation rentals, what it is, but we don't have that in my commercial zone. But vacation rentals and motels are kind of the same when you look at them in building codes, et cetera. They're transient use. So we're calling it a motel. His advertisement's going to be people going online, looking in VRBO, Airbnb, et cetera. You'll find these units available there, and that's how he's going to market. And his clientele will be all vacation, short-term rental people that are going to be coming. This will just be where it's located for their use to just rent. So it's not going to be the traveler heading down I-15, looking for a place to stay. It's not. His clientele are going to be already booked out weeks prior to type thing. So
What would the difference?
That's exactly my point.
Sorry, this is Commissioner Mitchell. Is there a difference between long-term rental, like an apartment, versus a VRBO? Like potentially, could this become an apartment?
no, it could not become long-term rental because of the zoning.
Okay.
He'd have to come back and do PUD and do mixed use, but you'd have to change. It won't be able to be apartments, long-term rental because of the zoning right now.
Those long-term, a week, a month, more.
29 days or less is usually how vacation short-term is defined. That's, then it becomes, once you hit the 30 and 31, a full month, then that hits what they consider long-term. Everything short-term transient is basically 29. Some cities use 28 because of the month of February. Some use 29 just because leap year, and others say 30. So, but that's the splitting factor is whatever your city, and ours is at 20. I think we're at 28 days is what ours says.
I guess another thought I had, this is Commissioner Mitchell, but is this for the public or is this for internal use? And maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't affect our decisions.
So we would have our employees use it because sometimes we do have needs where we have to bring people from our Salt Lake store down to help out the people in St. George or to do training or anything like that. So that would be something we would definitely utilize it for. But for the most part, it would be something that would be open to the public. It's to generate revenue. This is an investment.
Christian, we're all deep in thought here. Forgive us.
Hey, Christian, I'm going to ask a real quick question. You have block walls on here. Is that going to be split face, I hope, on your stonework?
So I'm not sure exactly which block wall you're referring to.
No, you call out on your right here, if you're able to see this, the ground level is CMU wall construction painted to match the existing building, but I'm not a real big fan of the flat block wall. I don't know. I think the commission is either. So I'm asking, can that be split face CMU block? You know what the split face is?
Yeah, something that's more like.
It's the rough looking stuff.
Where there's two different textures.
Yeah, like they kind of chiseled it.
We can definitely do something like that.
Now, what about up top? Or what's the exterior walls up here on the second and third floor? Is that stucco? Because it's not really. I just noticed that. You didn't really call out what the.
So this would be something. Yeah, this would be something that you could basically see from the inside out, but not from the outside in. So it's more like a slat wall, where there's visibility. So when you're sitting, obviously these units have hot tubs in them. So when you're sitting in the patio area, you'd be able to see out, but it would block what people could actually see as they were like driving by or something, just for privacy.
But I'm still asking, what is the finish on the exterior of that wall into the units?
Where the private.
The only thing that we have is just a wood look. We don't have like the very specifics with it as of right now. We could definitely, work through this, and I'm open to, working together on making sure that the design works together. So we just wanted to come up with something that would look good. And this is what we came up with, just in general sense.
This is Commissioner Hanson. Are you taking
this?
Which
is what we thought we'd need to.
Are you taking this at all from something that exists in another city?
The design, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the design, the concept of it and all that. Yeah.
And we have looked at buildings, but in all honesty, they were for completely different uses when we came up with this design. So, but what our purpose was is we were just trying to make something that looked good, that would be able to be something that would be able to be next to the freeway and still have privacy issues and sound issues and things like that. So we're not sold on this design 100%. I mean, I think it looks good, but if we need to make some changes, I'm totally willing to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Christian, this is Commissioner Anderson. One idea we're brainstorming here is if the red needs to stay, then maybe making the wood slat walls a darker wood so it doesn't clash. So I think that's probably what's clashing the most with the red. So
okay,
just an idea, a darker stain, or I probably wouldn't paint it, but a darker wood so it doesn't clash so bad with the red.
About a rusted metal.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's just if you want these two sections to be different or more, linked together. And like I said, to me, it really doesn't make a difference if there's a preference. I mean, I obviously I want it to look good in the end, and I don't want it to be the fluorescent pink, I think is what you brought up or whatever, or somebody did. But anyway, we definitely want a good final product in the end. So, but the details about it, I'm completely open on. Once again, it's not really dependent upon, somebody driving by and trying to attract their attention to get them to come in and stay there. It's, more about the beauty of this situation, keeping in mind that it's, right next to the freeway. So.
And that's what again, I think the architecture is fine. I'm not looking for them to match. I just don't want them to clash. That's all color wise. And I think
we can definitely make some changes.
You can play with the colors on the slats to where they tie in a little bit better with the red. That'd be my only suggestion.
We can definitely work on that for sure.
And then this is Commissioner Mitchell. So we didn't ever conclude on the finish for the rest of the building. Is that going to be stucco or some other type of product?
It says EIFS right there, so I'm assuming probably all that around there is stucco.
For me, commissioners, it seems like we're getting close to the end of some of our questioning here. For me, I don't know. I feel this is something that we're going to approve ourselves, not going to send to city council. There's some things in here that I don't know if my mind's playing tricks on me, but when I look at this, I can't come to grips with it making sense in my mind. I personally, I just can't. I know the signage says in our pictures here, Arctic Spas, and that is not indicative of what it's going to say in the future. There's just something about it when I drive by this area, which I'm familiar with it. I want this to work. In my mind, I can't get there. That's where I'm at right now. And I'm happy to be the odd man out. If you guys have any comments or anything, I'm happy. I mean, it's not for me. That's just my vote right now. Is I can't get myself to.
I could clean up the area myself.
I agree. Commissioner Shields said he thinks it could clean up the area well, and I do agree with that. I'm just trying. I'm struggling with if this is being built to drive traffic to Arctic Spas or vice versa. That's one of the struggles I have, and it sounds like that is not the intent. But what I'm looking at here is certainly.
I don't think it matters either.
If it matters, well, for me it matters. When I look at it, it should be one or it should be different. That's the way I look at it. Just as somebody driving by. If I drove by and saw what I see in my pictures here, I would wonder, what on earth is that? Why is that building tucked in there, attached to the other one, right behind? It just doesn't make sense in my mind. I want it to work. I don't hate the design. I'm just like, well, it doesn't seem like it fits right there.
I think if they mellow out the colors, I don't have a problem with it. It cleans up the area. So what if it attracts them to the spa company? I would want that if I were him too. And we want it as a city.
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with that, but I would say either do it or don't do it. Like if you're just say, yes, we're going to try to attract to our spa and we're going to incorporate the two so they look like that. So it's the same owner that owns both of them and is trying to bring people in there for a specific purpose that ties both of those together. When I look at that, I don't see that. I see two different.
That's unique. I don't mind Arctic Spas Motel, but that's me.
We call it the Arctic Inn, you know.
It has
If it helps, the Arctic Inn. Saves them a letter instead of SPAS, it's just INN.
That's a great point, Commissioner Anderson. I'm not asking for that, but
I just said, and I know the applicant, and I'm not asking him to change his logo and everything, but I would say if the red on the Arctic Spa were black, the same color as the purple, I don't think it would clash in our brains at all. I think it'd be like, oh, that's a sharp looking project, and we wouldn't even think twice about it. Like, to me, that's the thing that makes you look at it like, what the crap are we doing here? That's the only thing that's.
I don't have a
sticking in my
problem. I
mind.
don't have a problem with it because it is what, like he said, it's like asking, Coke to go with blue. I mean, it doesn't work. But I mean, if you mellow out the slats, I mean, the yellow and the red looks weird, but yeah, if you darken those up, it'd look great. And where they have hot tubs in each one, it's just a bonus for the people that stay. I mean, I look at it as just what they're doing. It's just some way to generate revenue on land that he owns, and it. I mean,
Right,
it's gonna look
I
good.
agree with
I
all
like
that.
it. I'm in favor of it. I like it. I think it's a good thing, and mellow those out so that they're a darker color of the slats, and it'll go good with the red. I mean, the red might change later on. If they decide not to do Arctic Spas, they might not have red there anymore. So that's because they're different entities, but they're still kind of hooked.
Can I respond?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I was just going to bring up is that, as far as the aesthetic look, we can definitely work together on that. I'm not sold 100% on one thing or the other, and if that's really what the issue is, we can make these buildings look like they're one building, and that's it. And in all honesty, it would probably help Arctic Spas more, the hot tub side, if they did look all the same. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just looking at, this is a piece of property that I purchased in January, a year and a half ago, and it's just trying to maximize this potential, investment wise, and then also just make it look better. If you remember what Malibu cleaners look like versus what it is today, as everybody's driving past this, high traffic area, me coming in and, buying the property and then reinvesting, $500,000 into this project has, I think benefited the whole look. And I'm looking at continuing to do that. So there's no question, about that, but I just need to have the investment side make sense and be able to make the dollars work. And then, also keep in mind, these are people that live in Washington, that are working there. It's not just me, but, we do employ people down there. So, and this helps and expands that as well.
Yeah, just for the commissioners, my comment is I don't have a problem being the sole vote out. That's fine. I just continue to look at it. I would, if those two buildings, if you will, matched, to me, it's a unique property, and that would actually draw my interest to it, just as general public. Hey, what is that? And then all of a sudden it becomes cooler because you find out there's hot tubs and all the stuff that they have that's cool. It would be unique, but in looking at it as it is, it's not unique to me. It's not planned to me. That's what it looks like to me. And that's not to be offensive or anything like that. It's just, if I showed this to my wife or somebody in the public and said, hey, what do you think of this? I would think that that would be somewhat of a comment as well. Like, it doesn't look like they go together. That's just my comments to the commissioners.
So this is Commissioner Mitchell. How would we go about, if we want them to work with a group, who does that group become in the color schemes? Or is that worked out right now? Or so we'd have to pick a color, I guess is that what it comes down to? How we, in my mind, and I'll just share my opinion, I'm okay with the concept. And to be honest, I'm not too worried about the colors, because I do, in some ways, I mentioned before, I like a slight contrast just to distinguish the two types of businesses. But I'm not sure how we come to a color, or how do we come to that
Without
conclusion?
seeing it, right? That's the whole thing.
Without seeing.
So I'm going to just give you a few options. You can table it. He can bring you something back and show you what, the slats would be at a darker, more wood grain looking kind of color. That's one option. Or you can approve the use and the style as it is, and then have him come back when he's ready to pick those, and we can just put it on an agenda. It won't be a public hearing. He can bring you samples. We'll have an agenda item, and you'll say you like it or you don't. Or he can bring you 3 different kind, and you can pick whichever you guys can all agree on. That's if he's willing to do that. So it's either that or you table it till he does bring you something. I think those are your 2 options.
Christian, this is Commissioner Anderson. I'd be ready to make a motion to pass this if the red were black like the parapet, and you keep your logo colors with a sign or whatever on our Expo. But if you're not willing to do that, would you rather we table it and you bring us back a couple different 3 different renderings of some ideas of how to blend it, or would you rather just have a motion to pass it and change the red to black?
Well, my personal opinion would be I'd rather not get rid of the red. I would rather, I don't know, I can't remember if it was you or someone else, but changing those colors of the slats on the building. If we can make those darker, that's definitely going to, lessen that contrast between the 2 buildings. And I guess we just took the approach that we didn't want you to feel like we're building a bigger art expos. We wanted you to feel like we're building a motel, which, is allowed. And that's why we chose this. But I would rather say, let's make that new building closer with the building, if that's possible. If that's something that's not agreeable, then let's table it, and I will come back with a different design, and we can go down that road as well. I'd probably just say let's just exhaust every option before I get rid of the red. Like I said, that's the color of our logo. So
This is Commissioner Bullock, and I don't believe we need to make him get rid of the red. That's his signature, and that's fine. But if anything, just change the wood slats to a darker color, like you mentioned earlier, Commissioner Anderson. It'll just, and then that way he can get moving on with it. Honestly, I think if that's your holdup, then I say we just change them to a darker color, or even match. I guess that's black, but something that's not yellow.
What about the option? This is Commissioner Hanson. About your Arctic Spa building itself. I've seen that. I agree. Your designs look a lot better than what was there before. It is a good looking building. Can we do something to that building that would tie the hotel into it? Like put some of the slats on that building or something that I just think that these 2, my opinion, and again, this isn't a sword I'm going to die on, you guys. If the 4 of you love it, then we can make a motion and go from there. I just feel like these 2 need to look, if the purpose is the way I understand it, they need to look, because they're on top of each other. How do you not they have to look like they're tied in somehow. And then when you do that, like I said earlier, it makes it unique to me as somebody passing by that actually brings my interest in what is that, as opposed to, holy cow, what are those two buildings on top of each other that are not related to each other? It seems misplaced. So that's an option that personally I think would be a different route that would be interesting, about not losing the red, but adding some of those features in the hotel onto your Arctic Spa building to tie the two together as an option.
Make it less of a hodgepodge, basically.
That's, yeah.
I think
That's crude.
I think, well, I think that's the key, though, is one of the things we're trying to do, and I know this is not in the historic district of Telegraph, but one of the things we're trying to do with that whole commercial area is to make sure it looks, nice and cohesive and presentable. And this is, one way that it can either look really, really nice, or it can look odd. I mean, there are plenty of examples, on the freeway, just, past this going into St. George, just before the Gap, there's that big new commercial, building going in. It's got, I don't know, 10 or 15 stores, and they all have different, buildings and this and that. And they're all gonna have different signage or whatever, but they've used multiple materials, but they've tied them in together, so it looks really sharp. And I think that the two buildings, even though they're different entities, need to at least architecturally look like we didn't put a modern building on top of a strip mall building. That's all. It's just, there's got to be something done, whether it's architecture or color or something. I think we needed to table it and just have just some different renderings. I mean, I'm 100% fine with the idea. I don't have a problem with the idea, but I think we need some sort of visual rendering to look better. This is a really prominent area of town, and we want to try and make it look half decent. And I think tabling it just to at least get, maybe 2 or 3 different renderings to at least have something better to pick from, I think that's worth the time.
So what do you want him to change then?
Well, we've thrown out various ideas, but I mean, you could have one where he changes the slats to a darker. You have another one where he changes the red to a different color. You could have a third option if he's got other ideas. I mean, I'm not trying to be his architect. I'm just saying we've got to make these things look more cohesive somehow, so they don't look like I said, we put a modern building on top of a strip mall.
From what I'm under. So how do you recommend? I mean, you're talking colors, which I'm fine with. I'm just curious, though, how do you recommend, or what is your vision? Because you guys are saying it's not working, but what is your vision of it going? Because it is a 2-story modern building on top of another building. That's exactly what it is. So,
but there are lots of ways that you can make that work. I mean, there's plenty of ways you can make that work. I'm not trying to be his architect, but his architect's obviously skilled, at the addition that he's done. I mean, he can work up some renderings on the existing building to make them tie together, or he can work on colors or whatever. I mean, we give him some ideas, but he's obviously got a skilled architect that could figure this out. I mean, I just say we table it.
Could I just respond to that? I would say let's just table it and let me come back with another idea, and that's totally fine with me. And I definitely want it to look good. We obviously took an approach that maybe wasn't necessarily the right approach, but we can definitely change it. So let's just table it and let me redo the design, and I'll come back. And I know your concerns, and I think they're valid for sure. And we can just present something a little bit different that's more according to what we were looking for, as the commission, and we'll go from there.
So the next question is how long do you need before you can get those renderings in, because we have to table to a date?
Just give me a month and it's just basically color and design. So it's not something that we have to do engineering or anything like that. So if you have another commission meeting in a month, then I can have it ready for then.
Well, we won't have a meeting a month from now. So it's either on...
Or whenever your next one is.
2 weeks is probably too quick for you and your architect, right? So it'd be the 20th.
Yeah, I probably need a little bit more time.
Yeah, the 20th of July. How's that work?
That works perfect.
Actually, it's not the 20th, because the 4th is a Monday, right?
Yeah.
So it's the 6th. No, it is the 20th. It's the 6th plus 14 is the 20th. Yeah, 20th of July.
Christian,
That's totally fine. We can have something work better by then.
This is Commissioner Hanson again. Because I'm the chair, I'm going to throw this out there. I want to get this right, and I want to make sure that we're as clear as we can be with what we're asking. I want to give every commissioner a couple seconds, minute, whatever it is, to tell him what your final thought is, what you'd like him to do. So it's clear to him from each of us. If there's nothing, just say nothing. And if there's something, please let him know. And I'll start with you, Commissioner Mitchell.
I would just say maybe some different color schemes. I'm not opposed to him keeping his signature logo with the red, but I would love to see potentially just some other colorings on the new edition to see if there's a better blend.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I like it. The color of the slats is, I mean, if that's the holdup, that's the only thing I see would change. I like the slats. I like the idea of the hot tubs on the patio, so no one can see in, but you can see out. So yeah, just the colors as far as I'm concerned.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I don't want to misrepresent my thoughts. I'm not opposed to this project. I actually think it's unique. I think it's interesting. It's new. We haven't seen anything like it. I welcome to see its success. I just want to see these two buildings tied together somehow. So when I drive by, it looks to me like they have something to do with each other, because in essence they do. They're going to share staff. There's going to be quite a few things that do overlap. So for me, I'm looking at this picture, just staring at it this whole time, wondering what I would do, which I'm not an expert in this field, but I would do something on the Arctic Spas building to change it to match your hotel. If that adds some pergola structures or some slats or something like that match the same slat color on the hotel, I think for me, that would be visually more appealing. So Commissioner Shield.
Okay, this is Commissioner Shield. I agree with that, and I would suggest that we marry the two properties together and make them more cohesive to one another.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I think that the two buildings need to be blended, and not just color. I think they need to be blended architecturally. I really like the new architecture on the addition, much better than the original building. Although, again, the original building, it looks better than it did when it was the cleaners. But I think that they need to blend architecturally and color scheme. However your architect does that, I'm not going to tell you how you have to do the colors or whatever. But I would like to see the architecture cohesive throughout the building, and both buildings, and the color scheme, working together. And I would rather see that the signs on the building be the factor that separates the businesses, not the buildings themselves, mainly because it's on top of the other building.
Christian, hopefully that helped. Drew, do you have anything you want to add, or just you'll hammer it out with him later?
No, again, you're doing just fine. I think that's what it needs to be, especially when we're doing conditional use permits. And again, our commercial, appearance and aesthetics we're really putting more effort into that as a city. So I like that. I think he's willing to do that. And I just say we table it till July 20th and have him come back. And if he could have some samples for us to actually see those colors or whatever, here I'd recommend if you could do that, Christian, somehow, that even helps having them here in the building. You could send them here if you wanted, didn't want to have to travel down. So
perfect. Thank you. Christian, any other final questions before we make a motion?
No, I appreciate all the comments, and we will get that done and take that approach. And I'm good with that, and we'll come back with something that I'm sure everybody can work together on. So,
all right. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for Commissioners. I'll look for a motion on this item.
It's Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion that we table C-22-07 conditional use permit for motel development located at 1086 West Red Cliffs Drive. Table it to July 20th to give the applicant time to come up with revised architectural and color schemes on the design.
Shield, I second that.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Anderson. I have a second by Commissioner Shield. Individual voting on this item: Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock.
Aye.
Shield.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Again, Christian, thank you. And the date again, Drew? Sorry?
20th.
20th.
July 20th.
July 20th. Look forward to seeing what comes to us at that time. This does wrap up our agenda this evening. There's one, I guess, question in my mind I wanted to ask staff before we ended this evening. I wanted to make sure as Commissioner Drew, we didn't miss something by having to remove somebody from the public from our meeting. Is there something that we missed in regards to that, or was our action in line and was the individual inappropriate in his actions? I want to make sure we're not doing something that we could have avoided that situation.
Well, trying to avoid it, I don't know if you ever can. Some people, again, you get certain areas that get hit with a lot of changes or whatever. This one's kind of minor compared to other ones. The Bella Vista folks is a great example. I'm not picking on them. They've been through countless public hearings and stuff. And so, sometimes things just get ramped up or, it's kind of normal. But no, there was an option given, stop, again, yelling from the audience is not acceptable in any public meeting.
Yeah.
To that extent. So, but the option was given to, change that, or we'll ask you to leave. And he kind of offered it himself. Well, just tell me to leave. So, I think that kind of answered, you gave him his option. He gave you his response and it went accordingly. So I wouldn't feel bad about that at all. That's kind of, it actually just went fairly smooth. If you ask me, for the, I understand he's irritated, agitated, and upset, but things are, again, these things already happened. That's why, I apologize if I stepped in too early, but it's just like we didn't need to go somewhere that it's already done. We don't need to rehash those things in this meeting. So
when I continuously confirm this type of stuff, there's no reason for me or any of the other commissioners to believe that the staff is doing something that is out of line, or we've noticed people how we're supposed to notice them by law. We've done everything, but we continuously have people come in frequently. I didn't get anything. It makes me, well, I bet you did. We sent it and here's the proof of it. But I just want to make sure that the city, of course, again, giving you a chance to confirm the city's doing everything they need to do to avoid.
Well,
these
again,
things
if
at all
people
costs.
question that, this is not the time to, they can say, oh, I didn't get it, and then keep harping. You just need to, there is, and that's why I said there's times you can come in and we can click that, but after so many days and stuff, it's kind of a, met its process. Everything times out, no matter what it is. So,
All right.
but again, those things did go through the process. They went through 2 public hearings to get that. You remember it.
I remember
And the
seeing
city
it and
council had the meetings too. And so we just know that all those, and it's pretty much the same exact list, but we do have them check it. Sometimes it does change from a developer owning a piece to now a homeowner owning it. So we still always look at that. They have to bring those in within the, we make them give us the area that they got it from. And then again, it's either by the title company or the county recorder. So it's not like anybody else, that's why it has to be one of those 2. So that there are no mistakes of somebody being left out. And
Okay. So awesome. Thanks. Commissioners, any other questions or comments tonight before we adjourn the meeting? We did. Yeah. I'll look for a motion to close the meeting this evening.
Commissioner Anderson, I make a motion to close the meeting.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I second that motion.
All right. First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is closed. Thank you all again. Staff, thank you for everything that you did. Have done.